Ladies and gentlemen,
Stuart Buergler. And I told you I like overthink stuff sometimes. And I was staring at your last name spelling, which has been in my phone for a decade. And then I overthought it and then asked you again. And here I am overthinking it again. So anyway,
Just like the thief, we spell it a little different. We throw people off that way.
right. Yeah. Keep us on our toes.
There you go.
I'm super excited for this. I'm going to attempt to, you're the man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to try to give you one anyway.
Oh, all right.
So Stuart, you're a paramedic, you're a first responder, you're an entrepreneur. I'm going to go so far as to say you're an inventor, even, and you're a dang good person. I know you are. And I'm really excited for this conversation. I'm going to tee it up a little bit about why I'm excited. And we were talking about it off camera that, I don't have preset questions or like a direction when I go into these things. So I'm really excited actually for an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. But for everyone listening, I've known you for, I think it's been 10 years. It's been a while. You helped teach my EMT program at Upper Pine is when I think we first met forever ago.
Bound to be.
And there was a moment that I think kind of illustrates the essence of who you are, just to kind of tee all this up. But we were having some family stuff going on in my family. And we were having some family challenges going on. And I was working at Ballantyne at the time. And I was in my little like tiny, closet of an office. And who comes by but Stuart?
Sure.
And it was, you should know, like, I'll never forget that moment because of the bigger context of it and what it represented. Like when people are going through stuff, where it's always like, we're thinking about you or whatever, but you drove to my place of work, you talked to the secretary, came in and said hi and checked in on me. And anyway, it was such a cool gesture. It was such a cool thing to experience that from you. And I feel like it kind of sums up, who you are. And then there's been such this cool journey, in your professional life, your entrepreneurship and all of that stuff. So I'm super excited to hear about it. I think probably where I want to start today is a little bit of background on your first responder experience. Eventually knowing that I want to get to kind of how that has transitioned and led into entrepreneurship. And is it fair to call you an inventor?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's low tech, but I'll hang my hat on that. Like everyone and their brother, especially the past couple of years, like AI is so trendy and everyone and their brother is convinced that high tech, like farmed out to the field into the pre-hospital, like, my gosh, we can just advance so much. But anything that introduces complexity or more moving parts or more steps into the process when someone's like truly sick or injured, we kind of need to look at that with a little bit more reservation. Like the whole idea, like isolate it, protect it, get them to a specialist. Like I've probably said that a million times in my life now with like the devices that I invented. Like sure, they're novel medical devices, right? Yeah, it's like they're very intuitive,
which is the brilliance in it.
Yeah,
I think. Have you always been? Because obviously, I shared that story about when you stopped into my work, and again, I know you as a person, but and I think that I would make the leap to say that like being a first responder is kind of core to who you are. Like you, built to help people, serve people. Have you always been? Like I'm made to be an entrepreneur. I rented my parents' VHS tapes out of their garage. I at one point had a garage or a garbage can cleaning bit. Like, I look back at my life in hindsight and I'm like, I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And then I finally, did it. And it's like, that's who I was meant to be. Knowing that, like, do you feel like when you look back that you were always meant to be a entrepreneur too, or that's kind of been now a second identity? Like, talk to me about those two worlds.
I think they complement each other. And like me saying, sure, a second ago when you're saying, hey, like, it seems like it's ingrained in you that you're a first responder. I mean, the only reason I kind of have that dismissive response is it's like 15 years into doing this, and it's given me more than I've ever given back. Like, so the idea that I could ever, like, say my back starts like really being a problem one day, or these med tech ideas, they take off, and I just have this big professional obligation away from an ambulance and a fire truck. I still think in some capacity I will be volunteering or serving like on a fire and EMS board for some like rural fire department, you know, and like, yeah, it's just a part of my life. And I think when you become a firefighter paramedic, there's a part of you that you sign up to be a problem solver. Like, and I think most of us, and again, 15 years into it, like, I'm not so intensely passionate about like the cutting edge of things. And, you know, do I have what it takes to do all this, you know, off the wall stuff? But, you know, just looking at really nasty burn injuries a number of times in my life and thinking that, okay, they suffer from hypothermia, but our current standards of care don't really insulate, and they suffer from extreme pain. And our current standards of care really tend to provoke pain, like once it gets enmeshed in a wound bed, and they suffer from high rates of infection. Well, all of our current standards are extremely permeable, and they take forever to apply to like this infection-prone wound, and like they have inconspicuous fluid loss. Well, we don't really check that, you know. We're you know, patients are like extremely emotionally panicked, and it's like it takes forever for us to like wrap all these wounds, and most of the time we'll do it in an inadequate way. So like just having that basis of being like, hey, I need to be a problem solver. Yeah, the light just kind of clicked after one particular incident where,
To,
yeah.
well, I had a follow-up question, but now I want to hear about the incident.
Oh, I did talk to the family about it recently, and I was given the green light. I'll speak with regard for, or due regard for privacy and
Yeah.
HIPAA. This is Southwest Colorado. Like after 10 years, everyone knows everyone.
Right.
And so like there are people they'll already know like what I'm talking about. But at my job at Upper Pine, I used to drive the fire department SUV, like the advanced life support chase vehicle. And I would go and I would chase all the different ground ambulances that would be staffed typically by lower level providers. It would go from EMS incident to EMS incident. And it's a very flexible job at what I did in that chase vehicle. And there was one day our district was particularly busy, and all the ambulances were basically spread pretty thin. And I was alone at Station 5. And then we got dispatched to a home explosion. There's an adult patient and there's a pediatric patient.
Jeez.
And the more reports that we had, these patients both sounded like they were in bad shape. Okay. I'm alone. I'm in a chase vehicle. So I have to throw in my bunker gear, which for anyone who hears this, I know what that is. That's just the big, bulky firefighter ensemble that we wear. You know, you throw on your bunkers, then I grab all my medical gear. I throw it on a fire engine. The crew I'm usually there working with, they're already transporting a patient to the hospital, right?
So they're out.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were going to be, that would have been our first due. And so I'm alone on an engine, handling radio traffic a little bit. And I have like my ALS, my advanced life support medical gear thrown in there. And then Chief Evans and then John Learned, who was one of our reservists at the time, I don't think he's with us anymore. He grabbed a reserve engine from an outlying station, and they beat me to this call. But we checked on scene, and there was a member of the public I was acquainted with through my line of work. And I didn't know this patient particularly well. I recognized this patient. I knew this person and this person's spouse. I knew they had young kids. I knew this patient had a job that required the use of your hands. And I knew within about, I don't know, a 5 or 10 second, just like physical visual assessment, general impression that this patient's life was going to be uprooted and this person was going to be removed from her, edit that out. This patient was going to be removed from this person's job. They were going to lose the ability to be a parent. They were going to lose the ability to probably like even go to the bathroom on your own. Like once you suffer these nasty burn injuries, like you basically, all dignity and privacy gets thrown out the window. We're very lucky the pediatric patient was unaffected. And Chief Jenkins, or not Chief, that's my Arkansas fire chief, but Chief Evans and I, Jenkins will come up later just because he's helped me with the med tech stuff. But Chief Evans and I were the primary providers for this patient. We had about a 30-minute transport. The ambulance that first checked on the scene, like I was saying, the boxes had all been busy that day. And the ambulance that first checked on scene was pretty dirty. Like they had just dropped off a patient. They hear there's a home explosion with multiple patients. Get there, you know, we can triage from there. The truck was pretty dirty. On a very personal level, just because I was acquainted with this person, I wanted to provide the best care that I could.
Of course.
But there were life threat presentation concerns that would redirect Chief Evans and I, our focus. You know, I would be trying to tidy up wound care, you know, from the hip down to the ankle, and then this patient may clear an airway. There may be some hoarse coughing. There may be black soot in this patient's mouth, you know, and so we'd have to redirect, and I'd have to turn to Chief and say, like, he was up at the airway, and I was kind of on the side of our patient, and I was like, hey, you know, if this airway occludes, like, we may have to thread like a much smaller than our standard size endotracheal tube down there, like, and we don't have what's called RSI, rapid sequence intubation. Some people call it other stuff, but like sedate, like pharmacologically sedate, paralyze a patient, and then take control of their airway. And so in like a very crash, like, my gosh, if we lose an airway, we lose this patient kind of scenario. It's like we were going to have to introduce much more Fendel and much more Versed than we probably would be comfortable doing, you know? And
Because of the extent of the injuries?
just we would have to sedate without a paralytic agent.
Oh,
It doesn't stop your heart, but it'll stop your muscles, it'll stop your respiratory efforts.
right.
You know, that if an airway goes from here down to here, so like from a quarter down to a dime, down to, if it continues to constrict, like, we would just have to sedate that patient into a different universe, and then maybe use like something that's more appropriate for a pediatric patient for one shot to ensure that we still had an open airway.
Yeah.
And this is someone like, I didn't know this person well. Recognized, I know their spouse's name. I knew the first name of at least one of their kids at the time. And anyway, like Chief Evans was probably 40 years as a paramedic. I was probably 10 years as a paramedic. So it's 50 years between us. And of course, Chief Evans has done like every EMS and fire thing under the sun.
To have him on.
Yeah, he's got quite the story. He's done a lot of impressive stuff. But he and I, the two of us in the back of the truck, 30-minute transport, we still could not take care of her as meaningfully as we wanted to, you know? And we watched hypothermia kick in. We weren't able to check pain meaningfully. Yeah, it was just...
And walk me through the why behind the why there. Like, because I'm definitely picking up obviously the intensity of the moment, the complexity of it. You know, you've got all these, the burn injuries, the aftermath of the explosion, you know, that
confirming the scene and tertiary.
Yeah. And then that, I'll just call it like conflicting priorities of, I mean, obviously airway is way more important than, you know, a burned leg or whatever. Well,
100%. Yeah.
to
Compute. Yeah.
right. And you had mentioned though, like, I forget your exact words there, but basically like an inability to do what you were hoping you could. Like,
Sure.
explain that to me a little bit further, like meaning that you had to essentially ignore certain things to focus on others, or
There was exposed burnt flesh that we weren't able to adequately dress. And I really, on a personal level, would have loved to have done that for that patient. We had a hard time keeping hypothermia from setting in, even though we took the air conditioner, we turned the heater way on high, you know, and we really weren't able to check pain and the emotional, physical and both the emotional pain near as meaningfully as I would have wanted to. And the deal is, if someone, again, if they just keep redirecting and you think an airway is tapering shut, all the other stuff, you know, it just drops way down on your priority list. But, you know, and we'd come back and circle through, and, you know, again, just on a personal note, like, head to toe, had I been able to dress every wound, keep hypothermia from setting in, had a much cleaner environment to introduce that patient to, um, and treated her as well as I would have liked, I probably would not have invented anything. But 30 minutes in the back of a truck with, I think it was north of, we'll say the majority of this patient's skin. I don't want to say too much. We'll say the majority of it had been affected.
Right.
Yeah. And
And are you like in the moment feeling that frustration, or is this something that happens in hindsight? Like when are you like, gosh, there's gotta, when does that, I'll call it frustration, transition into
not in the
there's,
moment.
yeah,
Not in the moment. You're in the moment when someone, well, again, I'm looking at someone who has all those like responsibilities of, yeah, there's nothing, there's probably nothing more important to that person than taking care of her family, you know, and then they have a career that involves the use of their hands, and all the little things that around all the day-to-day life is about to be upended and removed. And they're going to go take a protracted stay at a specialist facility, and it's just going to be a long road to recovery for that person. And a lot of the patients, like, once it's that extensive, like, recovery, that's not even guaranteed.
right.
I understand the recovery has been very impressive. I don't really dig, but no, I may have forgotten what your question
Well,
was.
yeah, because I'm curious about like you're the trajectory and kind of like the transition of when those that moment turned into then like a belief that something could be better.
Oh, calls like that, calls that kind of have a heavy emotional toll. This is not remotely unique to me, but if it's a ped, or it's some crazy pediatric, or some crazy tech rescue, some weird cardiac dysrhythmia, that's like with overlapping like renal failure and mismanaged diabetes and the whole nine. Like, they're not very often, but on occasion, you get those incidents and you replay them over and over.
Yeah.
And you just you do little checklists of like, if Chief had done this, could I have improved that, or vice versa? How is our radio traffic? Did I make her feel emotionally supported enough? Things like that. And I was basically, I think this is answering your question, but I was walking around in front of my residence, and I was just kind of going step by step. I thought of different ways that things could have gone better. And then it just hit me like, my gosh, like, what you're upset about right now is that there's exposed flesh that you could not treat appropriately. And that stuff, like burnt flesh, takes forever to recover from. You couldn't treat it appropriately because there was a life threat. And you had to focus 100% on that life threat whenever it could be manifested.
Right.
Okay. Well, what if, like, all that sloppy gauze or loose and bulky dressing, or the non-adherent pads, the burn sheet, the sterile water that was applied, what if we had something that was much more user friendly? And I mean, and so it just kind of hit me. I was in front of my residence, and I was like, a sleeve, a pant, and a neck gaiter, because I always thought that, like, the digits, even though like your hands and digits, like most of the burn injuries will occur here, they'll also be included. I was like, this is really difficult anatomy to manage. And then we ultimately end up producing, like, what we're calling our hand glove, but it's a glorified oven mitt with finger partitions with medical grade textiles, But it's like, those are the first couple of devices that I was like, look, the extremities are 86% of these injury types. Man, if you can just like effortlessly and like kind of be multitasking and slide something on someone's legs bilaterally in a sleeve and cinch it shut, and my gosh, you should have an IV-IM port and things like that. Like, all that stuff that was frustrating me for that one patient that I cared about so much. All that stuff could have been addressed in a handful of seconds.
Right.
Not minutes of delay.
Right.
Because even when you do take something like loose and bulky dressing, which is just like tightly woven cotton, like this, like, think about like some really dense spider web, and you start wrapping that, like, if you pull it too tightly, there are some problems there. It spreads it out, so it doesn't really cover well enough, which means it doesn't insulate well, but it's parked directly on some skin that's like openly oozing.
Right.
And so like that cold dressing, just like all of a sudden it's like if your sleeves got wet and you left them on.
Right.
Okay, so it's a hypothermia prone patient that has a cold dressing on top of that open wound bed. That's not very good, and if we wrap it too tightly, because like we don't have enough like loose and bulky dressing in the back of a truck.
I got circulation issues.
Yes, we cut off circulation as that extremity continues to inflame. And so it's like, my gosh, if loose and bulky is a standard, then we could build this for, someone 6'4" and shorter, and you're going to capture the majority, like 99% of the US adult population.
Right.
So like someone like me, it's more scrunched up, someone like Logan, if you know that guy, it's a little bit more elongated. Regardless, like the same flesh gets covered just as expeditiously. It's insulated, it's sterile, all that,
So I'm curious, and I definitely see it, like, this intense moment, and
I wasn't intense.
well, but a complex moment, like there's so much going on, and then you're
Oh, sure.
the call, yeah,
Yeah.
and then the debrief after, I'll call it, the
Sure.
AAR or whatever, but gears start turning, and I don't know how long ago this was, how many years it was, but 10 years you had said of paramedic experience. So, we're talking about a guy with 10 years of paramedic experience.
And Chief, who's much more impressive than I am.
Right. Yeah.
Chief Heavens, yeah.
But then it's like, I can sense though that the gears are starting to turn as far as that there's got to be a better way. The standard of care could evolve, for the better and these things like that. I want to know what's next. Like,
Prototyping.
yeah, but walk me through like the, because what I'm trying to get at is it's not like you've got, inventor friends, or that you're in like entrepreneurial spheres, or, that you're like immersed in, overseas manufacturing or whatever. Like, this moment, it's a 10-year paramedic with an idea.
Mm-hmm.
How in the world do you start to execute on that idea? And what I'm especially interested in is what gave you the first part of that question is like, in what was your first step? Like, how did you start going down this path of turning this idea into reality? And then what gave you I don't know what the word is for it. I call it the ambition or the motivation, or the drive
Mm-hmm.
to actually pursue it, because there's so many people that, have an idea for that thing, or
Sure.
that, oh man, I preached for years that a shallower, wider salsa jar would, sell like crazy, but I never do it. It's not like I pursue it, but
Someone else doing that?
I don't know, but I'm going to copyright that. Anybody listening, the officially, trademark, but, like the people so many times, and that's, I think, what's really unique about your story is that so many times people have ideas.
Yeah.
You took action. What was the action initially, and where do you think that drive to actually take action? Walk me through the mindset of it.
We'll back up. The only reason I had any confidence to invent, and if for people that are just listening, I'm saying that with air quotes.
I'm not.
The only reason I had any confidence is that some of my additional responsibilities at Upper Pine, there was just like some mid-management stuff I was responsible for. I bought EMS supplies and medications, everything from like tongue depressors to ketamine. Like I bought that for the whole department. And so I kind of saw what industry had to offer, what devices were. And I was also put in charge of EMS education for the men and women on my shift. And so, it's like I'm buying the new medications or the new devices, I'm introducing them, I'm doing all the in-service work, or cooperating on bringing in like a sales rep to do in-service work on this stuff. And then again, that advanced life support chase truck, like basically the arrangement back then, and the department's changed a little now, but the arrangement was like, if it's a minor call and they don't need advanced life support, then you just show up. And this is before like your brother had extended his education. Like he was like at the entry level EMT basic still. And it's like, Spencer, he's going to run this call. He's going to be the primary on this patient. You're just a sounding board. And you just show up. Hey man, you need anything? Cool. What's your treatment plan? Sounds pretty good. All right. See you, bud. But if a patient did need advanced life support, then I would like transition over and be the primary.
Right.
But I would say it's those three things: that buying supplies, teaching people the ins and outs of them. Cause you probably know this, but like if you do like a 2-hour cardiac presentation, you prepare many more than 2 hours
Right.
going into it, you know, and like, if you try and do your best, because it's, you know, you just know you're going to get all these off the wall questions you didn't even think of. So it's like, okay, I better make sure I am prepared,
Yeah.
you know, and, but that, and then just going out in the field. And then, so those experiences with, you know, the burn patient I was acquainted with, or watching some of the peers that I worked with, like watching them struggle with certain things. It's just like, man, I kind of feel like I have a front row seat of a lot of inefficiency and inadequacy in medical devices. And I think this is really good. I'm getting long winded, but the way it usually goes, and this is good, like the way it usually goes is like your level 1 and your level 2 trauma centers, they develop new therapies, new interventions. And then if it's appropriate for a pre-hospital provider to provide it, then it'll get farmed out to us. But there's this whole development plan, and it's probably a good idea. It comes out that way, you know, rest of time. But like taking care of a single patient in a 10 by 10 room with, you know, 2 nurses, a tech, and like an expert consult just down the hallway, it is very different than taking care of that same patient like in the back of a car.
Right.
Take care of that same patient, you know, in the back of a cramped trailer, like, you know, it's a hoarder
On
house.
the side of the road.
Yeah, down in the ditch.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's like, there's not very adequate translation sometimes, you know, and so that just kind of, it was like, man, I think I know this patient, or I know like this is a problem, and I really don't feel like this patient population has meaningful care until they get to a specialist facility. So that means even from like working like your brother and I in the back of an ambulance to getting them to the ER, to getting them on a bird and flying them to a burn center. Like basically once they touch ground at a burn center, that's when like their quality of care really starts to improve.
Right. Which is a long way away for people here.
Yeah.
And in many places, but
Yeah. And so it's just the whole idea of isolate it, protect it, insulate it, keep it simple. It's a very delicate wound bed, you know, minimize as much interaction as we can with it, and get them to a specialist. Like I thought, man, this could make field medic's job a lot easier. And what kind of gave me the confidence? Probably those 3 things, but then my brothers, William, Matthew, Benjamin, but really William, you know, he pulled me aside, and, you know, William, awesome guy, but, you know, he kind of came out of the womb as a CPA. And I know that might like make you chuckle or sound like an insult, but no, he's just like a very polished, professional, well-organized guy.
we need CPAs.
Yeah. Yeah. He had done a lot like in the private sector, and like I have a 4-year degree in accounting, but, you know, I'm a paramedic firefighter with like a degree in accounting. Right. Like I've done a little bit of my own real estate stuff, or like my own like personal investment for retirement stuff. Like not the most impressive. You know, Will pulled me aside and he and I talked about like one of his clients that was an eye doctor. And Will said before the MEMS brought on as a client, it just always struck him as like, he seems to live a little bit more lavishly than what I would think, you know, an optometrist or ophthalmologist, I forgot which one he was. And he seems to live a little bit more extravagantly than what most of those folks live. And it turns out like that guy had invented some diagnostic tool that is used daily now in clinics. I mean, at least in the US, and there's this whole regulatory burden of getting it into other countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole undertaking, but yeah, that was one of the things that, you know, it's like I have free housing out here. Thank you, Durango Fire. I had the best job in the world, 4896 over there at Upper Pine. Worked part-time, you know, for Durango Fire, like special event stuff, or Silverton EMS. Like, but 4896 means like,
You got 4 days.
yeah, and if you're kind of like, if you like to tinker, if you're a self-starter, plenty of time to prototype, you know? And I honestly thought though that it would be a lot easier. Like, which is okay. I'm glad I bit it off. Like,
The only reason I'm laughing, Stuart, is because I don't know if I have strong enough vocabulary to articulate how blindly naive I was to my entrepreneurship journey. And I'm grateful for it, because had I known how hard it would have been, I don't know that I would have done it. Like, luckily though, it's just like, hey, I'm going for this thing, and quit my job, and thought it would be a lot easier than it was. And then you're in the thick of it and you got no choice but to, you know, keep going. And it's for sure worth it. But anyway, that's why I was laughing, because blind optimism got me to the starting line. And then obligation kept me going.
Well, I really thought like this will make you laugh. Like I called it a value quadrant where it's like I talk about like burn injuries and what these patients suffer from. I talk about the inferiority of the current standard of care, which like all these different categories have like 5 or 6 bullet points in them, and then I talk about like how I benefit patients and how I benefit providers, 5 or 6 more bullet points. So we'll just say that, it's 24 bullet points total. I really thought that I could build useful devices that made sense with regards to hypothermia, emotional pain, physical pain, infection rates, things like that, and get a patent and just like all those wonderful contacts from Henry Schein or Boundtree or Stryker, all these people I've been working with,
That it would just go.
yeah, I could just turn to them and be like, hey, look at how backwards our current standards of care are. Hey, I made a simple solution. Who wants to make it to where I can afford a house in Durango, Colorado?
Right.
I literally thought like, I thought it's like, this is going to be like a couple of years of hard work, but probably get acquired pretty quick.
Right.
What do I know? But it turns out
7 years later.
no, we are coming up. We formed in 2023. So no, that the incident occurred in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, 5-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember what time of year it occurred, but yeah. But turns out with like cheap one-time use disposable devices, like if you actually want it to have any sort of impact, like, and it's not just about your personal income. Like if you want a medic's job to be easier and compromised flesh to be protected better, then you have to do a lot more work,
Right.
Whereas
Are you learning this? You've obviously been learning this work as you go, like that, and that's what I think is cool. And I want to learn more too about like what that journey looks like. For like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I love talking to entrepreneurs. I also love talking to. There's a lot of first responder, firefighter entrepreneurs. I've got several clients that are full-time firefighters, and then have another business on this fire mitigation or mobile IV clinics or whatever.
realtors.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But like my world, digital marketing, there's very low barrier to entry. Anybody with a laptop could do it theoretically, and tons of people need it. And I sell directly to the user, and it's a very low barrier to entry, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's fairly straightforward to execute on it. Make an LLC, start doing work for people, and invoice for it. Let it grow from there. You're in a world though where, like you even mentioned some of it, there's all the regulatory stuff, the patents, the distribution, there's buyers at these agents. Like it's not we're not standing up a Shopify website and letting people buy it. It's way, way complex. Walk me through some of the specific and like I'd say the surprising hurdles that you've had to navigate or learn how to jump as you've just, because it kind of sounds like, and that's why I love your story already, is you just started and then kept evolving as you went. The other thing I'm interested in, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Talk to me about surprising hurdles.
Surprising hurdles. Oh man. Surprising. I don't know if necessarily all that much has surprised me. I will say there is some things that have raised my eyebrows, that have like, okay, that I'm not going to name any one contractor or specialist in any field, but just you do have to, it's everyone says it, that it's like this like trite statement, but you do have to be on top of every little thing to a degree. If you're going to farm out a little bit of development work on how something goes with like FDA regulatory pathway, then the first group we worked with, which is not Novum Medical, like Novum's done a really good job, but the first group we worked with, I just remember like looking at incomplete sentences and like misspelled words and like being like, did anyone proofread this? I did, like Word documents exist and you can hit spell check, there's just been some of it, like the amount of just the disparity that like there are some contractors that are so dialed and attentive, like you have to explain concepts once to them.
And then they got it.
And then they'll like intuitively build upon like, hey, if this was like the statement of work we provided, this is how we executed it. We stayed within budget. We anticipate these are the next additional concerns. This is how we would address them. And it's like, my gosh, like it is so pleasant to work with you. Whereas there are some people that every little detail, like you just have to like revisit again and again and again. And to a degree, like I knew that was going to be the case because we're like the least significant med tech company out there. I'm not waving around like $15 million invoices right now. Like I would like to wave around $15 indexes. Thank you very much. But yeah, just some of that, like, come on, man. But I also I come out from a different world. Like these people, like they probably graduated college somewhere, an engineering degree or whatever it may have been. And, they have all these different devices that they provide services for. And we are really like the small fish. It could probably be hard to prioritize as much, but just, going from a firefighter medic and you just see people with illustrious titles, like all these acronyms behind their name.
Right.
And you think like
They can get something done.
that should confer some seriousness because like I'm a Neanderthal, I'm a simpleton.
Different.
I think, and it's like, wait, you just copy and pasted my rough notes and dumped it into this? Like, no, we got to correct this, buddy.
Right. Has it, because so when I quit my job and I started Ascent, I was, I'll never forget it. I quit my job in October, or gave my notice in October. I give them a long notice, and I started in December. And I have core memories of like this tiny Christmas with my family. It was like my income had totally stopped. I was signing my own paychecks from there, and I'll never forget my first month. I made $1,700, and I couldn't believe it. Like I made an invoice, they paid it. Like I couldn't believe it. It's $1,700. But I had this, I had an obligation to support my family quickly. Like I had to start making money, at least enough to, make ends meet right away. But I have also experienced a profoundly long delayed gratification. And that's where I'm getting at is, because in my world, I mean, I'm investing into employees, I'm investing into our marketing, I'm investing into our advertising. Like the business is growing really, really well. I have yet to personally feel it. You know what I mean? And I'm 4 years in. And I believe adamantly that my day is coming, and that keeps me going and all that stuff. But I'm also paying my bills along the way, and it's afforded me a great lifestyle. Pays for my truck payment, and I'm on payroll, and it's all that stuff. I'm interested, especially in this world of entrepreneurship, because usually when I'm talking to guys, or gals, it's a side hustle that turns into a full-time gig, or they start something, revenue starts coming in, or whatever. You're the first person that I've talked to that's been down this like product development, invention type route, with also all those layers we've talked about how complex going to market is.
Sure.
I want to hear from you what that experience has been like, because I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I would imagine, like you said, there's not huge invoices going out yet, and there's all this stuff. Yet I know how hard you work. I've worked with you on several projects. Speaking of great contractors, by the way, no, I'm kidding.
Oh, sure. I'm kidding. But you guys did an awesome, totally kidding. Yeah.
But I mean, gosh, several years, so much time, so much energy, your passion, and all that stuff. And I don't know like what the time horizon is looking like or whatever, but I want to know what this feels like what that experience is of. And I also would love to know more about the details of like funding and how you've,
Oh, sure.
how you've been able to continue to jump through the hoops that come your way, and the regulatories, and all that stuff. Walk me through what that's like.
We'll back up just to early prototyping, start building stuff, working with Tay Hillier at San Juan Design or San Juan Sewing. If you know who he is, he has a gear repair store at the mall.
Oh yeah.
And he and I were just throwing stuff against the wall to see what would stick. And he's an Army vet, and so paramedic firefighter. And it's like, man, it's like, I forgot what his job title was in the Army. And but it's like, my gosh, like this is pretty intuitive. Like if there's some like 18-year-old infantryman who's injured, like this would be an easier application for his friend that's scared right now. And so that's like the prototyping and all that. My younger brother, he's a banker in Northwest Arkansas, commercial lender. And he put me in contact with this guy named Spencer Jones, who was an Arkansas nurse who invented this breakaway IV catheter port. And I'm not going to explain this technology well enough, but the idea is like, if you have uncooperative patients, or if you're having to like shift patients around that are in the ICU, that you don't want them pulling their IV catheter out, especially if you have like potent drips that are going in for whatever reason. And he basically has this port that separates and like has these two little valves that'll shut off on both like the patient side and the pump side, or the gravity bag side as well. And Ben and Spencer were acquainted. Spencer was kind enough to like entertain a couple phone calls with me, explain some stuff. And then there were some folks that put me in contact with a couple development houses. I mean, Spencer, honestly, like what he did is he told me like how to look up different development houses.
Where to look, yeah.
Because it's like, I'm over here like probably typing like a caveman. I'm probably just like, new burn stuff. Who does this? Create it. AI. Like AI wasn't even a big buzzword yet.
Right.
And no, but I basically like novel medical device, med tech development, in-house, blah, blah, blah. And you start finding out that like there are a lot of these little outfits that it's like, look, you're a healthcare provider. You probably don't know much about industry. So you probably don't know much about like a design history file. That's exactly what it sounds like, but to be regulatory compliant, like you have to have like the history of like all the inputs, who's given you like your input products, that's of building materials, like how it's being cut, how it's being handled, the sterility, all that stuff, different like measurements, tolerances on the engineering side, how much you can be off, and you have to have this like whole big packet. Well, heck, I didn't know that. I was just a guy that just liked the way burns were treated, right? It's like, okay, so people handle that. Cool. And then, what about market analyses? And it's like, well, I can Google stuff and I could tell you it's bad, and, but these proto houses, like, so design history, file development, market analysis, FDA regulatory pathway, raw material sourcing,
Yeah, manufacturing.
contract manufacturing, all that stuff. Like
That you're learning as you go.
they'll take you on. And so the first group we worked with, I went and interviewed people in a couple different places. I don't want to say the names because it was disappointing, and I learned some stuff the hard way. And
Sorry, my life.
and yeah, but the first group we worked with, I'll say their drawings were really polished, but like the attention to detail on the timelines and like deliverables, and expecting to pay for a portion of the statement of work that they just said, well, we can't get it done, but we still want to bill you for it. It's like, okay, I know I'm new to this, but I'm not that stupid, and but that group pointed me to MDM West, which is coincidentally happening this week. And it's I think it's Medical Design and Manufacturing West. And it's in Anaheim every year. I think there's a conference in Germany that has more attendance, but I think who really knows? But I think MDM West likes to like state that they have a larger market cap or influence on like the industry, like the entirety of medtech, like from tongue depressors to neuro implants, like it's there. And they told me to go out there, and I ran into a couple of like, okay, man, we can take your idea. Like, it's cool you have these engineer drawings and these market analyses, and it's cool it's have like that you have contacts with key opinion leaders, whether it's like Chief Jenkins back at Rogers or Chief Evans out here, and like some of these folks that I've gotten to know that have military medical connections. It's cool, but that is still like a little notion of an idea. Like, and I went and I interviewed a bunch of these different firms. One was out of Florida. One was out of, I forget where this other group was out of. I just remember the guy continued to interrupt me every time I was trying to explain something. And I think one of his coworkers was just like, hey, Stu's new to this. Like, pump the brakes, dude.
Give him a minute. Yeah.
So, and then there was this group, Nova Medical, and they have like a sister company, Primary Packaging. They're out of they're out of San Diego and Tijuana. And like MDM West, like I went from shaking their hand, all the NDAs, showing drawings, talking about like wound care is complex, so our intervention should be simple, all that stuff. Or wound recovery is complex. And they're like, hey, we get it. You're new. You have a little bit of investor capital, and I'll come back to that. But you have a little bit of investor capital. Let me show, and they showed me like other products that they had helped develop, other things they were doing, and they're like, "Hey, you have your passport on you?" No, I do not. And so I think it was Aaron Clymer from Upper Pine. I called. I was like, "Hey, can you get into my residence, give me my passport, and overnight it to my cousin who lives in San Diego?" He's like, "Sure." It's like, man, thank you. And like the next week, um, I'm in a Ford Expedition with like most it's, I mean, it's just partially, it's probably evenly split, the ownership. It's like a couple of people that live north of the border and a couple of people live south of the border, and they're taking me through. And I'm in a room in front of, I think half a dozen people down in their Tijuana manufacturer. And I basically printed out that same value quadrant. I didn't even do like a pitch deck kind of PowerPoint presentation. I was like, and we can talk about this if you want. It's kind of boring, but I speak Spanish pretty well. And it's like, look, this is the shortcomings. Our patients deserve better. Our medics deserve better. I'm patent pending. Yada, yada, yada. We have this much, we have a little bit of capital raised. How do we back in to like getting this ready to introduce to the public? And they gave me a whole tour. They gave me references and like all the different people they'd worked with. And they gave me a tour of their like sterile manufacturing facility. And so you got to wear like the gown, the booties on your shoes, the hair.
Yeah.
And you just walk around, and it's like, I'm looking at IV catheters and I'm looking at Israeli bandages. And it's like, oh, and they produced a Gantt chart, which is like all like the different stages of novel device development, like 88 stages, I think, 88 deliverables. And well, some of that's boilerplate. You change like the title of our company and then like the specifics on each point, but it's like some of that's a little boilerplate. And it's just like they're kind of rolling out the red carpet, and they're picking up what I'm putting down, and I like the way that they're approaching this.
Yeah.
If my idea is less is more, like they have a simple approach to things. And yeah, we did a series of interviews with all those little boutique houses, those little startup accelerator houses. And then Nova Medical, I mean, they won the contract. So
And all this is out of pocket at this point. Like, how are you?
so the first group that couldn't meet deadlines and wanted to charge us for deliverables that they did not deliver, that was out of pocket. And so that was pretty easy for me to say no.
Right.
Yeah, like the first utility patent application, that was out of pocket. But the way, like, in order to raise money seriously, you can't go up to investors and say, "Hey, I'm gonna be patent pending, but I just haven't taken that initial step to protect this concept, to protect this IP."
Right. But to take this serious.
Yeah, you just, and so no. And then
So how did you go about funding?
friends, family, and fools, and William and Benjamin. So William the CPA and Benjamin the lender, they polished my pitch, and I remember this, is that like everyone that I talked to, all the different conversations, like at the end of it, everyone's like, "Dude, you are insanely passionate about this." And like I had just seen somewhere around the same time, I think it's like some report that like passionate people, they burn out quickly, and so like more reserved people actually, that's someone
That's interesting.
and like high expectation. And like Jensen Wong, like the Nvidia, however you say that,
Yeah.
he has this interview where he says like high expectation people are low resiliency. And so I could even remember there's sometimes I was explaining this to people I was talking to, and I was trying to be more reserved. And at the end of it, they're like, "Dude, you're a passionate guy." I mean, I don't think it's every day that like anyone who's like cutting an investment check like has this like paramedic firefighter who's like, it's stupid. The current standard. I mean, look at this. Like, this is supposed to protect flesh, right? Do you want this on your spouse? No, it's like look at it in like, I mean, and so I don't know, man.
So I've never been accused of lacking passion. Throw up that swear. But so okay, so and don't tell me specifics, but like you raised some
Less than $1 million. Okay, it's a good number to say.
yeah. Enough that you're like, all right, this is the runway. I mean, yeah. And are you getting paid at this point? Like, what's the what's that look like?
Yes, but I mean, there's been some market delays on everything. Yes, I'm paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. but there's been market delays on everything. And so I am working more often still at a fire and EMS agency than I thought I would.
Right.
But, I'll say this, like on the textile side of things, I don't have firsthand knowledge on all this, but this is just what I heard, like kind of from folks that are actually like embedded in industry, and whereas I'm just like scratching the surface, right? Um, like after October 7th, like I understand like the Israeli government really peppered around a lot of money on like wound care, textiles, and big contracts. They were like, yep, we're gonna take care of our folks. And I think they were just like cutting checks for any amount. I don't know that. But there was a period of time that like it just felt like trying to like get my build of materials ironed out in a serious fashion as like an unproven, small, insignificant quote, which is delayed, delayed, delayed. And then you have tariffs come around, and a lot of like manufacturing coming out of Southeast Asia is all of a sudden heavily penalized. And people that were building our design history file that like we had been working with for months, like they just stop, like they start extending the deadline. They stop ignoring, or they start ignoring the deadline. They stop answering emails and calls. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought this part of like our development was already settled. And so then you have to pivot around and find someone else to play ball,
Yeah.
you know?
So are we in market yet? Like what's the current?
I think, I hate to say realistically, it's probably April, which is pretty upsetting because I want it to be March.
Right.
Like I want it to be Q1 this year. There's one more tiny little deliverable from a contract manufacturer that has to get ironed out. And
So you're like close though.
yeah, so we're gonna take this one. We have to tweak this one component of what we're doing, and it's important, but it's just the final one. Like of all the dimensions we've measured from like tip of your toes, top of your skull, the kitting, all that, like all the stuff we've been obsessing over, stitching patterns. I mean, keep going down the list, dude. Like the length of like hook and loop.
Right.
Oh, no call it Velcro. Apparently, I learned that. It's hook and loop. Good to know. Yeah, did not know that. Yeah, and
Probably because Velcro's trademarked or something.
yeah, they're sure. I think it's a proprietary product.
Yeah.
And but like we're waiting on this one thing, and then we have to do what's called a distribution study. And it's not like I just made a bell curve, but it's not like statistics. Like it's like distribution, like raw materials arrive from different suppliers, show up at Tijuana warehouse, assembled, packaged, sterility, like how we handle it, how does it handle being in the back of a truck, varying temperatures, things like that.
Right. Like literally. And
So yeah, all the way to like getting in the back of some military medic's pack for getting into an ambulance somewhere, And so it's like one of the things that they have like these agitator machines. I think that's what they're called. That basically just like they recreate like sticking it in a loose cabinet in the back of like a UPS truck or whatever. It's like bouncing around for that. Yeah.
that's
They do
wild.
drop tests, they do pull tests on like hook and loop and stitching. And, it's just, if you're going to claim you have a 2-year or a 5-year shelf life or whatever.
You better have a 2 or 5 year shelf life.
Yeah.
So what happens then? So like and I don't know if like I said, I come from a world where it's so relatively linear. Like we make the thing, we sell the thing, we do it again. It's very from your side. Like I don't know if you're looking at like the time horizon or the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, or whatever. It's been several years now of jumping through all the hoops, all the learning, all the delayed gratification. I mean, all that stuff. When does revenue start to come and how? Like what's happening after?
I think the first customers, I'll say, oh man, Chief Evans, my gosh, if only I could document like a little bit of revenue. I'll say, hey, Chief Black, Durango Fire, man, I need a little revenue. Hey, Tyler George, EMS Director, Silverton EMS. Then Chief Jenkins, my Arkansas Fire Chief, he's moved on. But like Chief BJ Hyde, like just a little bit of revenue. Like, so I like probably some groveling at first.
Right.
But I'm very lucky that like I anticipate internally, like just as like it may just be like friendliness that all those fire chiefs and EMS directors I just rattled off, that they buy X amount of kits. Like, it's almost like, yeah, bud, like, we care about you. Thanks for working hard while you were with us, whatever.
Right.
But I think I'll just say that, you know, I go to these conferences and, for the most part, like, I kind of show up and shut up and I pay attention. And, I've met some people in, the distributor world, and I met some people in the wound care world that seem to be cut from the same cloth I'm cut from, and you just like their energy or whatever. And I sent out our ad videos because I mean I've met these people at conferences, and it's like, look, you tell me you need like a direct, like, our trademark panicking provider proof. Like, someone walked up to me and they're like, it has to be anxiety ridden provider proof, you know. And it's like, hey, I think I'm your guy. Yeah, it's like for sterility, hypothermia, ease of application, whatever. And like, man, let me know what you're working on. I'm not there yet. So as like the ad videos that you guys helped execute, I have selectively dropped those in different people's emails and like called people, and people have been highly receptive. Yeah, and there are a couple of like folks that are, I won't name names. Just I didn't talk to them. Oh, I won't name names just a little bit. Yeah, I didn't talk to them in detail about this, but there are some folks that would have been like, look, I have started novel device companies. I've sold them. I've partnered with people. Some of them have failed. Some of them have really excelled. I'm about to retire from the wound care space. Like, let me give you a roadmap. Yeah. And you're like, let me listen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the best benefits of me podcasting, by the way. Yeah. I told you when we were off camera, I love the process of podcasting, but I learned so much. Like, it's one of the coolest things. But it sounds like too that I don't think it'd be a stretch to just say that the network's been built. If you had to put I don't know, you know, obviously this is going to work. It's going to be successful. You know, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be doing all the work I do on into here. You know, like, do you have fears of that? Like, of course, is there, you know, and I can't imagine. I mean, I'm under so much pressure at Ascent because I've got my own family that I've got to support. I now have 11 employees whose families have to be supported. And then all of our clients' businesses are on the line. You know, like, it's a very high pressure day to day. There's a lot on the line, but I don't have investors. Like, I think that would be you know, it's great, obviously, but there's the pressure there. You know, that other people's money is on. I'm curious, like, what that feels like and how you're kind of approaching now that it's finally to go to market. You know,
I'll say something that's kind of like a interesting take on it, I guess. To me, I had this realization the other day. But what it feels like to accept money from people, the first 12 months, I gave them monthly reports, and then I gave them quarterly reports, and that's where we are, just quarterly reports. And I am extremely, it's extremely important to me to represent the positive half of whatever occurred and the negative half as directly and as I try to be as objective as I can.
right.
You know, delays. Like, hey man, thought you're gonna be in the market like 12 months ago.
Right.
It's like, well, you remember, I haven't been argumentative, but like, I did build in a cushion. Like, some research I saw said like it takes a novel medical device like 3 years to get in the market. So I mean, all the work I did before we formed was still like again, the Neanderthal, the heck fire, almost for accounting. Yeah. And so it's like, I used to, in the back of my mind, I thought like, but you know, I think we're a drop in the bucket to a lot of these people, you know, and it's like a very speculative swing. We built in all the documentation, you know that, and I'm getting a little lost there, but you know, when I tell people like, look, there's a lot of market interruption, there's tariff delays. You guys know that I fly down to Tijuana somewhat regularly, and I go get my hands dirty. You guys know, as soon as you call, I call you back. I proofread every email. But I guess, man, I'm getting a little long-winded. One of the things I'll say is, like, as I have learned more from industry, I intentionally introduce those terms in my investor report. Like it's no longer like, like simpleton with some crayons, right? I try to use like market, like med tech industry words, right? And just like it's, to me, I don't even know if they even pay attention to that detail, but hopefully they're like, well, he is committed, you know. But one of the things I thought was interesting is like I do have an obligation to people who gave us money, big time, you know, that it like I'm that's at the forefront of my mind. But what's funny is like these wonderful, like the engineers like Carlos and Gustavo, and I'll stop naming names just because there's so many people, but those are the primary two for out of Tijuana that I work with. Awesome guys. Like this young Gustavo kid, like works his tail off, you know? And it's like he just graduated engineering school, working like at this med tech job 40 hours a week while going to school, gets his engineering license. I never have to repeat anything with him. Carlos is the exact same way, except, you know, Carlos is a senior one. So just Carlos, I'm not saying there's a difference between them, but it's like to see Gustavo, like this young kid who's just like,
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, you're like, man,
I saw a thing that I think is relevant here. Somebody shared on social media the other day, and it was basically like paying attention to the questions we ask ourselves and asking, instead of like, you know, all these what ifs, like, what if it goes better than we expected?
sure.
And I love that because, you know, I told you, I'm in a big moment right now at our company, and, you know, there's all these variables and all these, but like, what if it goes better than we thought? And I don't know, it's helped me a ton with, you know, I think because at the end of the day, and I'm sure it's the same for you, like it it might not work, you know, like this whole thing may whatever, but I'll know with certainty that I did everything I could. You know what I mean? Like, and I can live with whatever outcome at that point. Like, there will be no, I won't be like, ah, I wish I would have done that other thing or checked that other, you know, yeah, I sent that other email, whatever. It's like, no, I should have tried everything I know how to try. And then the outcome will be what it is. I don't know. I think that that's a little bit relevant. Like, what if it goes better than we expect? You know,
I've gotten, yeah. I mean, just to complete what I was going to say about those two guys is like, I find myself caring about doing well on their behalf. Yeah, because they answer the WhatsApp messages, the emails, they clarify like, yeah, do I care about the investor pool? Primarily, yeah. Like we are on the same page, same team. But like the day-to-day folks that are in the acceleration side, like on the Nova Medical side, it's like you build a friendship or relationship with them. It's like, man, I got to do well on that guy's behalf because he's working just as hard as I am.
and they have an upside too. Is that how it's all structured? Like,
No, it's all a contract. Okay. And so, yeah, that's what, to bring it back to Spencer Jones, my brother Benjamin's contact, he was like, dude, like lift what you can, and then you're likely just going to have to outsource the rest of it.
yeah,
And so like these little accelerator houses that it's like, we have design engineers, we have raw material sourcing people, we have FDA regulatory specialists, we have in-house legal, we have distribution networks, we have advertisers. That, you know, it's like you find it may be like your new, again air quotes, approach to wound care. I don't like getting braggadocious about it.
it is new and it is awesome.
I think honestly what will happen if we can get some traction and some interest, I think much more impressive people than I am will probably like take it and improve upon it.
You know, what would that look like? Like, ideal for you. This goes perfectly. What does that look like?
I don't necessarily have numbers. I think you and I might have talked about this. You know, unfortunately, like my nephew, my godson, severely special needs, and you know, I'm a bachelor without kids. So talk about that being easy to take a swing at something like this. You know, I have free housing, flexible fire department job, no kids, no wife. Like, don't drink, don't party, don't do drugs.
Right.
Like, kind of a boring dude.
Like, roll curveball and you're swinging.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, my nephew, he has some special needs, and he has to be able, I think you kind of asked me like, what would be the best thing to me, like to be able to make sure that he was provided for, and the rest of them, like, because you never know, like you know, some of the other nieces or nephews, or I may have kids one day, you know, like some of the other nieces or nephews, like they may have some problem crop up, but just like right now, like my nephew Thomas, like if I were ever in a position to ensure that he had a little bit more security, you know, cool. Yeah, that would be my personal definition of success. For emergency dermal solutions for the company, for the investors, I don't want to say 10x. I don't want to say 20x return. I don't want to say anything like that. I just want whatever that multiple may be. I want it to be they were satisfied and they want to take a chop at some other stuff that we're going to look at now.
You're already looking at other stuff.
Yeah, dude, yeah, I'll make you laugh. And this is some of my naivete, and this is also pre-tariff disruption. I promise you right now, how long have we been going?
We worked good.
Okay. And unless people are just like burnout, checked out, which unfortunately that happens. But like I promise you right now, like there are devices, devices, different things in the back of every ambulance right now in the US that people are either labeling differently, like pairing together with other devices differently. People modify some stuff to accelerate patient care. And again, it's downstream of like those wonderful emergency room physicians and nurses and all the people that like farm out the new stuff our way. It's cool that it works so well in a 10 by 10 room, when a patient is like compliant and supine and cooperative, right? But like in the back of a moving truck, it doesn't always work that way. And so like the first couple of phases in that Gantt chart, novel device development, those aren't necessarily the most complex. And it was just my naive, like, I think I'm saying that word correctly, naivete, like my, whatever it is. I was
Correct for me. Yeah.
right on. Yeah, we were worried about last names earlier, right? Yeah. But it was going so smoothly. I was being told yes so regularly that I turned to people and I was like, hey, like, we raised this little nest of capital. Like, do we want to be exclusively the burn people? But like, if I have some other ideas to simplify stuff, do we also want to be the people that like make little iterative changes to existing technology and maybe try and like, there is one device, and I can't talk about it yet. There's one device that I'll just say that Banu Engineering out of Canada, they've been great to work with on it. There's one device that we've prototyped to, we're working on medication administration errors, and that's as much as I want to say, like trying to simplify that. But there's some other stuff, like the day-to-day use stuff that like I wanted to, like, if we have a novel concept that's unproven and with the market may reject, like, my gosh, should we not kind of like maybe diversify? But what I realized, like, as like,
You're thinking like an entrepreneur.
well, sure, but it's like,
It's like in your blood now, as I can tell.
well, it's like, again, like, well, you're a paramedic, you signed up to be a problem solver.
And now you've started thinking down that path. It's cool how like once your frame of mind starts shifting, it's solution oriented or improvement oriented or whatever. It's like anything in life. Like I tell the team we do gratitude roundtables every Monday morning. I do our all hands and then we do a what are we thankful for? And I make everybody do it. And I know it's cheesy and I know it's weird, but it's because I really believe that what we focus on gets magnified. And like you can choose in life, like if you're looking for problems, you're gonna find problems. If you're looking for opportunities, you're gonna find opportunities. If you're looking for, and it's cool to see that come to fruition for you of like, you've started having that lens for improvement or problem solving or solutions or whatever you want to call it. But once that lens is there, it's everywhere.
Well, it's familiarity with novel device development, like this new concept. If you want to breathe life into that, then like a little iterative change on existing technology, it's like, man, could that cash flow? Probably. However, what I was saying is that like, I think between tariffs and as the burn devices got more complex in these final couple stages, that the market, what they would ask for like minimum order quantities, MOQs, and then probably like my absence of sophistication on my end, like some of these, like they're like, it's a cool idea, but that is way too low of a number, guy. And it's like, well, maybe I should try and cash flow the first thing first. And but yeah, maybe we'll get there down the line, But it's like, if we could take a burn care device and make it to where our military and our civilian medics and all the nurses and docs, like they have something that's more user friendly and it's easier on a patient, all that good stuff. Cool. If we're like in a position to where it's cash flowing predictably and we're happy with growth and everything, then I may be able to revisit some of those ideas, you know? And I haven't even, there are a whole podcast series on like how to get your company acquired. I haven't listened to any of that stuff.
Right.
People tell me, like, dude, you got to be ready for the acquisition. And it's like, well, you don't know how boring of a life I live these days.
It's like I'm enjoying the food. Well, and also like acquisitions.
I could prepare.
Yeah, it's normal. It's like a standard topic of conversation in the agency space because mergers and acquisitions happen all the time. And one of the advices, and I subscribe to it, is it's like, why, unless you're ready, like if you still got the passion and the energy and it's there,
Yeah.
like unless you know what you would do next, why would you? You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know anything other than this, and being a first responder, but you know, that's so far in my world down the line. And I think that that's the right way to be looking at it is it's like, you still got energy, still got the passion, you know, ideas are still flowing. Why would you not, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, just the back of one of those trucks, like people, you know, they come up to us and they pat us on the back and then we're just so proud. And thank you for what you do. It's like, what if I told you 95% of my job, I'm laughing with all my buddies a lot and I'm having a great time.
Right.
And 5% of it may be we're actually having to like, you know, think hard and like pivot and be really serious.
Right.
But what if I told you the majority of the time, overwhelming majority of the time, it was a pretty enjoyable experience.
Great.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I guess I just want to say, that's like my little like comment I want to say, like, when you actually do have someone though, and they're circling the drain and like the moving parts are getting unwieldy and you can't keep your hands wrapped around it, like you just need devices that are more expedited. Like that's one of our trademarks, simplifying and expediting patient care. Totally wordy, but totally embodies what we want to do. Like you just need like, man, to provide all those interventions, like to where like your hands can be trembling, you can be scared.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first time I've ever seen like someone with this many comorbidities piled up and failing simultaneously. You're like, okay, like prioritize and execute.
Right.
You need technology to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome. Stuart, thank you so much. Well, a great conversation. And I got to tell you though, you got to commit to coming back when there's a whole line of products or we're in market and all that stuff. Cause I can sense the passion and I don't think it's a bad thing. And whoever says it is, you know, can pounce in under whatever was gotten the, yeah, I know passionate people's on our wall. Sure. We subscribe to it and, I can feel it. And I think that contributes a ton to, you know, the likelihood of success. Cause all we got to do is just keep going. And so I just want to tell you, thank you. It's so fun to hear you're just one of those guys that you can't not root for.
Oh,
you know, and it's cool. And to see the gears already turning about future and like these other ideas and stuff, I'm telling you, there's going to come a day that, we'll look back on this podcast when you're, you know, in the list of like strikers in those name brands you mentioned, and we'll be like, remember? And so I've got a gift for you.
oh gosh.
These are my inspire by example shirts.
Thank you.
Because you are inspiring by example. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing the story.
This is nice.
For making an impact, for chasing a dream. I mean, all these things that you're doing, it's inspiring. And I just can't thank you enough for sharing a little bit of it with me. I really appreciate it.
All the same statements right back to you. This is awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.